You please do roll call for us.
Yes. Online, it looks like we have Allison France, Cheryl Hartman, Christina DeVar, Alicia Buckles, Erica Grindy, Katie Fairbanks, MCAT, Mel Fisher, Sarah Heineman. In 206, we have Commissioner Strohmeyer, Slotnick, and Bureau. We have Brother Davis, Carrie Powers, John Hart, Helen Becker, Ann Hughes, Matt Lutzkaiser, Maddie Scott, and Kathy Criswell Perry. That's it.
Right, thanks. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have a whole bunch of items, 12 items. Any questions about anything there?
Items consent 5 and 8, we're gonna wet sign after, just FYI.
Okay, I will forget by the end of the meeting, so.
And motion to, oh, sorry.
You got it, you got
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
it. Further discussion or public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3 action items today. The first, our favorite topic, bylaws, but a new entity. This would be the Historical Museum bringing us this proposed change. Matt?
So I sent along the document with the proposed changes, and I can go through a summary here, but
Please do.
Just to back up a little bit on why we're changing these. So I think the commissioners know we have a partnership through the International Sites of Conscience with the Montana Black Collective. And one of the processes we're going through as part of this partnership is we're looking at both an internal and external change. And the internal change is creating a more diverse board and staff within the museum. So we feel this is our first step in that direction and changing some of the things that maybe would have held folks back in the past from serving on the museum's board. So the changes that we propose, I mean, some of them are more administrative, like we do propose bylaws review committee to meet at least once every 3 years, because it's been since 2019 since we reviewed our bylaws. We also are reinstituting term limits. We did have term limits on our bylaws prior to 2019. Those were voted off by the trustees in 2019, but they've agreed to reinstitute term limits. So it'd be 3 3-year terms the trustees can serve from. A couple other quick changes. We're raising the quorum from 3 to 4 because we would like to add 1 additional trustee position. So that would take us from a total of 6 to a total of 7, which we feel we could potentially use that position to reach out to some other folks in the community, potentially some of our partners with the Black Collective or one of the other groups to potentially get a board member that represents different interests in our community. So it's adding the board member, changing the quorum, reinstituting term limits, and then the rest of them are more administrative things like acknowledging that we have a secretary on the board. Previous to this, there were notes in the bylaws that had the executive director also acting as the secretary of the board, which is essentially a conflict of interest and shouldn't be the way it's done. So this calls out the secretary and lists their responsibilities in it. So I believe the commission did receive the copy of the new bylaws. So, and I did have Jacob Allington review it for me as well too.
I think that having them all wear uniforms is a problem.
That is questionable. It's a spandex uniform. That's what caught my attention.
They move more quickly that way.
Support.
Oh, was that a motion?
To support.
I was talking about
spandex.
spandex.
Oh,
I move that we move these bylaws along.
Second.
further discussion on the bylaws or comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Right.
Thank you, Matt. And don't you have some other bit of news to share with us?
I do.
Or is the?
I do. I shared with Chris and Ann, but I've not had a chance to share with our other commissioners that last Thursday, I received a call from the MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust. As you know, we put in a request for $350,000 to finish our barracks project. We were fully funded.
That's fantastic.
Now, so
Well done.
super exciting, which means that we should be able to complete the project next year.
Nice.
With our new collection storage building that we'll use to store textiles in, and it'll be fully climate controlled. But that was kind of the last piece that needed to fall in place for this. So,
Fantastic.
Well done.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the alternative would have been the next 3 to 5 years trying to piece together smaller grants or fundraising campaigns to raise that kind of money. So this was putting our eggs in one basket, but it came through. So it's good news. Great news.
Congratulations.
Good job, man.
Good work. The next two items are Kaylee's.
Yeah, thank you. So I think Zach Covington from the city was going to try to join today, but I don't see him online. So I will do my best to describe both of these projects. So the next two items are open space bond approvals. More specifically, they're county approvals or requests to concur, I should say, by the Board of County Commissioners with the approval by the City Council for open space bond expenditures. So remember, this is a process that's outlined in the interlocal because it's a countywide bond, even though the city does their approval as City Council. It is still required that there is a final approval resolution from
It's
the
not our money. This is the city spending their,
city's share.
city spending,
Yes.
quotes, their money, their share of the money. And just by the terms of the interlocal, we have to rubber stamp.
Exactly. And decision space is relatively narrow for these the projects approved by City Council for the city share. It really comes down to your decision to concur based on whether or not the proposed expenditure is in line with open space bond purposes, and is it legal? And that's pretty much it. So those are the points to which you could decide to concur or
In
not.
terms of the interlocal, do they do the same with ours?
No, they don't. And that's because it's a county bond. And so the county is, in a sense, the fiscal sponsor of the bond, which is why the final decision has to be with the county commissioners because
That would not go over well with our non-city of Missoula constituents if the city of Missoula had to concur with us, so.
yeah. And Chris, correct me if I have any of that incorrect, but that's my understanding about why the county has the final, has to have the final approval.
That's correct.
Okay.
How much is left in
Yes.
their portion of the 2018 bond?
Yep. So with both of these projects included, as well as I think just last night, there was an approval by City Council for a new project. There would be roughly 3 million left in the city's portion of the 2018 open space bond. And then with all of the current approvals on county projects, there's approximately 5.3 million left in the county portion of the 2018 open space bond.
What was the project they approved last night?
I think it was the Hayden Conservation Easement. So it was a fully donated conservation easement for property out in the Grass Valley area.
Did they
Wow.
like transaction costs?
Just transaction costs. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. And that is about all the detail I have on that one because I haven't read all.
Did they wring their hands about public access?
I didn't even listen. I don't know. I don't know.
Fully donated conservation easement. Slip.
Yeah. Yeah, that one will be another one that will need to come before the county for final approval.
So these are along the river, this project.
Yes, so the first one was actually an approval by City Council in 2019. So it's been hanging out for a little while, and that was an approval of up to $775,000. And that was split between 3 different projects. So it was 200 and rough, these are all from their approval resolution, 225,000 towards the Clark Fork River Sustainable Access and Recreation Project, 250,000 for open space reforestation, and then 300,000 for conservation lands trailhead improvements. And the related to all of these, as we all remember, so the 2018 open space bond required that improvements could be made to lands designated as open space. So the city's in the process of preparing a resolution that would designate all the areas as open space that are related to these 3 separate projects.
So why the 5-year
Yeah,
delay?
exactly.
Yeah, so the delay was really related to that open space designation. We don't, just in kind of a process, I suppose, a policy decision on how we proceed with these approvals of city projects, is we want to ensure that there is a mechanism that's been identified to place an open space designation on these parcels. And it just took a while for that to happen. The open space designation is a little bit of a new thing that we're figuring out how it's done. And there were so many different contexts with this over these 3 different buckets. That's a lot of different lands. It's a lot of different situations. And so it just took a little while to figure out what's the best mechanism and method for designating open space of, potentially over 100 different discrete areas. And so that just took a while. And once they got to the point where they're like, okay, we have a mechanism, we know how we're going to do this, then we felt like, okay, that's great. Now we're ready to move forward with this final approval, which is then going to allow them to seek reimbursement for the projects.
Do we change anything or they change anything with the reforestation project since the windstorm?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. And this is where, there are some specific pieces like that that I'm not as familiar with because they're city-led projects. I'm not sure. I kind of don't think
Still open
so.
spaces, they need
Yeah.
$250,000.
Yeah,
no matter
exactly.
what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
How about the
Still up.
river access piece? What does that amount to?
Yeah, so I think that the 225,000 that was approved for that resolution 8393 in 2019 was largely related to the planning work that needed to be done. And then you'll see the second item on the agenda is another approval resolution. And that is related to the $1 million approval by City Council, and that's for the implementation of the Clark Fork River access and restoration work.
Do you have an example just, are we talking Terrace Park or what is it?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Talking about?
I think it's a couple different sites, but I think at least one is it's those hardened river access areas that they're creating. And then I think there's also some restoration work associated with that. I see Jeff Gickelhorn is on the call. And so
Raised his
Jeff,
hand.
great, thank you.
Jeff, can you fill us in on what it is that's being proposed here?
Sure. I can't fill you on exactly everything because I've not been involved with all of the details for design. But largely the Clark Fork River Access and Restoration Plan is looking through the downtown river corridor, improving or hardening a number of access points. So, the Caras Park River Access Point, which takes a very small amount of this funding, but largely is funded through a $1.3 million federal economic development agency grant. That's currently under construction. There's a proposed access point underneath the Bear Tracks Bridge where we can't grow any vegetation. It's also a prime takeout point for a lot of river users right now. Multiple smaller access points through John Toole Park on the south bank, and then a proposed access point just directly adjacent to the Madison Street Bridge, which is on MDT right-of-way. That's being figured out because that has some sort of, again, private property or transportation boundary issues. And then outside of that, there are 63 or 67, can't remember, mapped social access points, all of which would be closed and restored along the bank, right? So the goal here is that we are directing users we're constructing these, hardened, manageable access points. We're directing users to them. And then once users have established those use patterns, we're coming back in and closing the social access points and actively restoring those, some of which by just passively restoring them, closing the area, letting it restore. Others that have been so heavily impacted where there'll have to be constructed soil lifts, restabilize the bank, fencing to protect, basically keep users on the either Ron's River Trail on the north side or the Milwaukee Trail on the south side and direct them to those constructed access points. So similar to how FWP does that on a much larger scale, this is, the city doing this on a much smaller scale, really through the downtown river corridor.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Allison, you had your hand up earlier.
If I did, it was an accident. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that all sounds good.
Yeah. I move we say yes to items 2 and 3.
A second.
Any further discussion or comment on items 2 and 3? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the Board of County Commissioners concurs. So there you have it. That is all of our business today. Thanks so much, Kaylee, for your service to
Yeah.
the county, and best of wishes going forward.
And what's your exact position going to be?
Yeah, I'm taking a job at the National Wildlife Federation. I'll be the senior program manager for wildlife conflict resolution. So I'll be working, actually mostly not in Montana, which is going to be a big change. I'll be working more throughout the West. Initially in Idaho and Nevada.
Is there an office in Missoula?
There is, yeah. It's,
Are you more excited about working remotely than going to an office?
I think I probably will still go to the office. It's over in the Sawmill District, so it's an easy location and, yeah.
Will you travel a lot?
I will travel a little bit. Yeah, not a ton. I think it's a little bit as I see fit and kind of makes sense for the projects I'm doing, but I'll get to travel a little bit, which is fun. See some new parts of the West.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
And we're so sad.
I know.
So sad.
We're happy for you too.
And
Thanks.
yes, congratulations.
Thanks. I appreciate
I just can't believe, like, I was literally just having this moment of like, oh, I hate it when great staff leave because it feels like, oh, I can't breathe. Thank God we don't have to, I'm not gonna feel that. And then literally, it was, your email came up like 30 seconds later. And I was like,
Oh gosh.
I know, I was like, it's my fault, I did it.
Instead.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So happy for you.
Thank you. Missoula County. Good.
State
has adjourned the meeting.
Annie, what,
Just a reminder that Saturday at 5:30 in the courthouse lawn is the homeless persons Memorial Day.
yeah.
So I just wanted to ask to give everybody a reminder that that is happening on Saturday evening.
Are you speaking? Or who's, one of you is
you
speaking?
have not.
Yeah, I think I could make it, but I'm not certain. But we can divvy it up, whoever.
I can't make it.
Figured out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.